Welcome to a new episode of Sunday Sauce. I have a special episode here, a long time coming. My friend Ian Walsh Reilly, that's right, he has 3 names because he's very fancy. He is the president of the Metropolitan Republican Club, a club that has no nonsense and is a very mature club. Ian, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm so happy to be here, especially on such a wonderful day.
Right.
The anniversary of D-Day, when our wonderful ancestors, historical ancestors, stormed the beaches and restored liberty to Europe.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What happened to men?
That is a very good question.
Now, listen, you're a gay man, right?
Yes.
So, but you're a man still,
Oh, yeah.
right? So, what happened to men?
Well, I can tell you, though, this. In the GOP, I've found that the gay men are actually the ones with the testicular fortitude.
That's true. You're right.
Yes.
You're right.
We are generally at the forefront of actually trying to do stuff that, unfortunately, some others are trying to prevent us from doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, like Lindsey Graham and these guys have no balls, obviously, because they just fold to the Democrats.
No, you have a whole part of the Republican Party in Washington. I don't know if they're drinking Kool-Aid or there's something in the water. But when it comes to people like Rand Paul, they actually stand up for our liberties. They defend it. They articulate it, and they're capable of advocating it. And they go into that U.S. Senate, and they fight for us every day. And then you have other individuals like Lindsey Graham who, quite frankly, don't. But I will say this. There is a big difference, Mike, between those of us who are out and those of us who are not. And I think that's an important distinction. Now, we're here in Pride Month, so let's make the distinction of Republicans who are willing to be themselves out there in the limelight with everything they are and fight.
Right. So you said Pride Month. I was going to ask you about that, right? So I was raised, I don't care what you do, who you love, doesn't matter to me. Why are some conservatives so angry that there's pride parades and stuff like that? I don't care. Good, have a parade. Amazing. Who cares? What is that?
I think it falls down in some cases to the philosophy that we have, conservatism. Identity politics is not something that we really get into. We're about the individual rather than the group and conformity to the group. I think that the general consensus a lot of times in the gay community is to the left politically.
Correct, of course.
And then so technically, as someone said to me once, I am a minority within a minority because I'm a conservative and proud to be. But I think that the fact that sometimes, I mean, some of these parades and stuff like that, people are naked. Obviously, that some people don't want to participate. That they don't think that you should see that publicly. You don't see that in other parades.
I can agree. I can agree with this.
You can go back and forth with that.
Right.
I think that, quite frankly, everyone has a proud history and should be proud of what they are. And if you're willing to stand up and advocate and fight for what you believe in, be proud.
Agree.
But I do think that there are people who they become a little too obsessive, shall we say, and take things a little too far in being anti this or that.
Yeah.
I believe in the big tent, and I think that Reagan was right. And I think that I also, growing up, we had the famous mayor here, Ed Koch.
Right. But he was like a secret gay person.
He was,
but like it was like the biggest secret, but not secret.
But think of the time period as well.
Of course,
too.
No, of course, yes, yes.
And then there's some people trying to prevent him from getting a bridge named after him, or something, or having his name taken off a bridge,
right?
Because some group in the Democrat Party said that he was responsible for people getting AIDS since he wasn't advocating against it. I think that this really is looking back in a very horrible way.
Right. I think he was afraid to advocate for
no one at that time, I think, would have come out in the way.
Right. But like as a gay man in those times in the 70s
100%.
and 80s, like that's even Andy Warhol was gay, but never told anybody. But even when he went to gay clubs, he was not the kind of gay that was in that time. So even he wasn't even in the circle per se back in those times.
I actually spoke to my parents because I said to them, look, we all huddled in place during COVID. You people back in the 1980s in the beginning, you thought that you could get AIDS from touching people, hugging people, drinking from the same cup.
Right.
None of that's possible.
Of course not.
But you never for one moment stood in your house or decided to lock the door and huddle in place. So something has changed in our society.
Right.
But back to Koch, what I wanted to say was, even though he's a Democrat, one of his most important statements that I always kept with me was that he said, vote for me if you believe in 8 of the 12 things I do. And if you believe in 12 of the 12 things I do, seek mental health. And I think that is best to do.
It's
Look,
very funny.
I am a very proud conservative, but that doesn't mean that if I have a disagreement with you on 1 or 2 issues, that's the end of our relationship. To me, that's very liberal.
Right.
And I don't think that the GOP, Republicans, Libertarians, Conservatives, whatever you want to identify yourself with, should ever engage in that sort of burn them at the stake.
Well, you run a very mature club. I've been to your club.
Thank you.
It's very.
We love having you.
Right. Oh, thank you. We, your events are very. You have very mature speakers. You don't have no nonsense in your club. It's just very, it's an older crowd most of the time, but everyone's very nice. People really believe in the cause. What made you so what age did you think that you really were into politics, would you say? And were you always
yes.
conservative? Were you always conservative?
I was, okay, so I grew up in a very political family.
Right.
I am older probably than you probably think I am. I vividly remember because my parents sat me down to watch the wall come down. Mm-hmm. So we were always engaged. My mother is a Republican. My father is a Democrat. Mm-hmm. There were debates in my house. The Walsh, my three names. Never trust a man with three names, by the way. Some of them anyway. Yeah. We know one. But I would just say simply that I think that back and forth debate is very good. Mm-hmm. I think that from an early age, I always kind of aligned more with the Republican Party, the party of Reagan. And I registered at 18 as a Republican. Mm. I'm not saying that I was, always as conservative perhaps as I am now. Mm. Different time period in the 1990s, different time period.
Right, of course.
And what did Obama say? Opinions evolve. But yes, no, I've always been a Republican. I was always involved. Actually, Obama is one of the reasons that I got involved with the Met Club. I went out for a candidate in 2010 to Obama motivated me off my couch and onto the streets of New York City to advocate for the GOP. Mm-hmm. And that was really the beginning of my involvement with the party. I did about 8 years of volunteerism with the Manhattan Republican Party, and then as well as with the Met Club. But the Met Club is where I wanted to make my mark.
Interesting. So yeah, it's a little different for me and you because I live in Brooklyn. So.
But I will say this: I did spend a good time with in your part of Brooklyn. I know Bay Ridge well. I love Bay Ridge. They're fantastic people, and they could very well do with better representation than they have at the moment.
Correct. That's what I was going to get to. See, in Manhattan, it's a little harder to turn people red, because there's a lot of money and a lot of people are liberal and Democrats. And in Brooklyn, it's a little easier because you have the working class people, the city workers like myself, and just like middle to upper class people who really care about kitchen table values. The people in Manhattan don't care about kitchen table values. I mean, because unless they live in upper Manhattan, Washington Heights, whatever, because they have money and they don't care about high gas prices. They don't care about inflation because they can afford it. I mean,
well, and also remember a lot of people in Manhattan don't drive.
That's another thing.
That.
That's another thing, right? They don't drive. Exactly.
One of the things from my time being on the street, going palm carding for candidates, advocating for candidates, that I learned was that a lot of times people in Manhattan are, and the rest of New York too, are just labeled as liberal when really they should be labeled as apathetic. Because there are people who are divorced from the process. They don't want to be a part of the process. They don't have a strong political leaning. They think, well, my friends think this way. Maybe that's how I kind of feel. But I think being apathetic is a much bigger problem in New York City than actually having a strict political ideology.
Right.
And also there's a good deal of people I met on the street who frankly were saying, I don't want to be a part of the process. That way they sort of could turn around later and blame you. I didn't do this, you did. I didn't vote.
Right,
and I think that's abysmal. You want to be educated on what's happening. The state government is so important. People don't know who their state senator is.
True.
They don't know who their assembly person is.
True.
They barely know their congressperson. But the state government is so important to the rules that apply to you in your city.
That's true, especially now because of the redistricting, the whole line thing, and now who knows who's going to be who, right? Like you have all these brand new lines. I mean, we were just talking, de Blasio has the audacity to even run for senator in Brooklyn in his area of Park Slope, and it also even stretches to parts of Manhattan. Right. So what do you think his mindset is there?
Yes, he wants the newly created congressional district that a chunk of it used to belong to Jerry Nadler, who's now going to face off against Carolyn Maloney.
District 10 is de Blasio's.
Right, and I believe 12 is
Nadler's.
Nadler.
Now that's what he's running for.
Right. This is the battle galore that we'll all be watching with popcorn.
Right.
Mama Carolyn Maloney takes on old guy
Humpty Dumpty.
Humpty Dumpty. There
yes,
you go,
yes,
Jerry
yes.
Nadler.
Yeah.
So we're all. I know I've got my popcorn ready. I think that when it comes to someone like Bill de Blasio, he didn't learn his lesson. Mm-hmm. He won twice. Mm-hmm. His wife got away with taking some change out of the,
just a little bit.
Just a little bit. None of that was ever dealt with.
No.
No one ever went after them. What consequences did Bill de Blasio ever face?
None.
He didn't back the police.
No.
He sprawled BLM in front of Trump Tower.
Right. And City Hall. He let them graffiti City Hall.
I saw City Hall.
Shit in City Hall Park for weeks.
Atrocious.
What is that?
It showed how he took his oath of office and couldn't give a poo.
Right.
He had no respect for it. He was, doing his pot and all that nonsense. He did not care. And why? Actually, the question should be, why shouldn't he do it? New Yorkers allowed him to be mayor.
You know what? That's actually a good point. I didn't actually think about that. But it's actually showing right now, I know it's still early, he only has, it's not really that early, but he has 6% chance.
Right.
And there's 85% undecided. So it's really not looking good.
Back to my point about apathetic
right.
people.
It's really not looking good for him per se, but just the balls of him. And I want to know who tells him that he was one of the best mayors ever. The
man in the mirror.
Or his wife.
Or the wife.
That's the only two people that can tell him that nobody else does.
No one else would.
Because I've seen countless videos of people going up to him while he's eating in restaurants telling him he's a scumbag, you ruined the city.
Right.
Yeah.
And he just smiles and
he's like, okay, yeah, I know. Why not?
You must be one of those deplorables that Hillary was talking about.
Right.
Remember, he ran her campaign for Senate. So
right.
All these people like to stick together, don't they?
As far as anybody who works for Dinkins shouldn't even be qualified to run for office because he was one of the worst mayors we ever had, besides Koch, obviously.
Well, what's really sad is that Dinkins is in the position of perhaps having that title taken away from him by Mr. de Blasio.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So de Blasio trumped Dinkins because he actually worked for Dinkins.
He learned at the foot.
Dinkins, I'm sure, is a very nice man, out of politics, but he was just...
He wasn't ready or he wasn't right for New York. He couldn't put it back into shape.
No, but, our friend Rudy Giuliani came into office.
Thank God for him.
Thank God he fixed New York, And now, hopefully, his son, maybe he might have a shot at governor.
Well, he's going for governor. We'll see.
Zeldin, perhaps.
This is the first time in a long time that we have a very qualified field of interesting individuals and choice.
Yeah.
This is choice now. Lee Zeldin, Harry Wilson.
I don't know much about Harry Wilson.
I said choice.
Yeah.
And Rudy Giuliani's son, Andrew, and Rob Astorino, who now, I don't know if you noticed, he's starting to put commercials up.
It's a little late for that.
It's a little late,
tiny bit.
Well, they like to flood the market at the very end when it's time for the primary, and then basically get you to decide for them.
Rob Astorino, I don't really know much about him.
Well, come to the Met Club on June 15th and you'll get to see him.
I will be there. I will see him. I know Andrew will be there.
Yes.
Lee as well, right?
Lee has declined to join us, unfortunately.
Why is that?
He is, as they reminded us, the only member of the crowd that has a job.
That's true.
And he will be in Congress voting.
He is technically a congressman still.
So he'll be voting that day.
Right. So I can't fault him for that. I actually had multiple conversations with a lot of people on my podcast that I never see Lee Zeldin ever in Manhattan.
He did an event for the Met Club last year. When he announced.
Okay.
We will have him back.
Okay.
But I think it's really important for all of these men to remember that, you win the primary and you go on, you have to be, try to get the center and all that, the games they play.
Right.
But it's very important to not forget your base because the base is what's going to be out there advocating for you on the streets.
Well, it seems Lee Zeldin has basically every single endorsement of the GOP in the whole state, the whole city. So I don't think he has much to worry about. But it's showing Andrew is leading in the polls.
Right. So there are some polls that came out that show him in the lead.
Right.
And we'll see as I like to say, we'll see on primary day who's ahead.
June 28th?
It's June 28th, yes.
Wow. So you have some events coming up Thursday, right?
Yes, this coming Thursday we're showing the film 2000 Mules, which is a documentary by Dinesh D'Souza about the election fraud in the 2020 election with Donald Trump. And the end of the month we welcome home Brandon Strzok, who started the walkaway movement.
Right.
And he's been gone for a bit, in part because of January 6th. But he's going to tell us his truth.
Now he's allowed to talk about it.
That's right. Now he's going to tell us his truth, and we're really glad to welcome him home.
And then the 15th,
we have our gubernatorial forum.
Rob Astorino. Is Harry Wilson coming?
We're looking forward to having him join us, and so we'll see
Andrew
later.
Giuliani.
And Andrew Giuliani.
Hopefully,
and we love Andrew.
Mayor Giuliani will also join.
That would be lovely.
I'm sure he'll come.
He's always welcome. And in fact, you should know that he launched his first bid for the mayoralty in our ballroom.
Mayor Giuliani?
Yes.
Wow.
So it'll be a homecoming.
How old is the Met Club?
So that's difficult to say because it started as the 15th Assembly District.
Okay.
So every club basically, every Assembly District, I should say, used to have a little club that was devoted. What happened
just
with
to like
ours,
go in and like strategize and whatever,
and they were there to get the people on the street to go out and get and
like
rally.
like a war place.
100%. So we've been at the current location that we built since 1930.
It's still pretty old. It's, it's a nice building. You could tell.
It's gorgeous. Thank you. No, it looks like a townhouse that someone lives in,
yes,
right?
Of course.
They made it nice for us.
Yeah.
But it began earlier downtown as the 15th Assembly, and then it just kind of grew. It started building that space during the Great Depression on 83rd Street, and at that time it housed itself at what used to be the Hotel Croydon on 86th Street, and now it's a co-op, I think.
Interesting. So speaking of your club,
yes.
a month or two ago, you had someone try to rob the place.
Oh, yes. We had a wonderful individual.
You made it on Fox News, I saw.
I did. Fox
famous,
and Friends.
very famous.
Thank you.
Yes, please tell us about that.
Don't forget the Daily Mail.
Oh, right. Oh, and the Daily Mail,
right.
another famous publication.
There you go.
Yes.
Yes, we were doing an event with Mark McCulloch, who's running for U.S. Senate in Missouri.
Okay.
And he was with us, and he was greeted by protesters who wanted to chant out the names of all the people who died of gun violence in Missouri. You know, that Mark had everything to do with that, apparently.
Obviously.
They chime a bell, and we were like, yeah,
They chimed a bell?
Yes, after each name.
Like the September 11th victims.
Yes.
So that's what they copied off of?
Probably, yeah.
I don't see the comparison, but okay.
Never look for originality on the left.
All right.
So he was greeted by that when he came. Him and his lovely wife, they did not care.
Right, obviously.
And we had a great event. He described it. I'm sure he got many donations. We were so happy to have him and talk about his race. And we had a gentleman, I shouldn't call him that, but I will, who entered our event. He was, I would say, making himself a little suspicious. He was looking around a bit. He was being a little strange. He was dressed in a uniform for a maintenance person, which, that's fine. A lot of people come to the club after work.
Right after work, yeah.
Right after work, so you come in your thing. We had one, I actually saw him, and I thought he was being a little strange, so I asked someone who he was, and so she was basically like, let's go greet him. Perfect idea. So we went up to him, we spoke to him. I saw he was in a maintenance uniform. I work as a doorman in Murray Hill, so I decided to speak to him about the potential strike, and that we were very glad that it was being averted.
Right.
He seemed a little strange,
he didn't know what he was talking about
a little fudgy on the details there. So but whatever. Maybe they've been drinking. And I left him to attend to some of our guests who were still mingling with Mark in the ballroom. And Rachel Herman, who was the attendee who was still speaking to him at that point, asked him if he'd been there before, and he said he'd been there many times. And she was like, that's great. I had never seen you. I come here all the time. And he was like, oh, I've never seen you either. And I've never seen him before. And she said, you've never seen the president of the club?
Because you're always around. You don't hide.
No.
Any event, you're down there.
Yeah, I'm running around doing crap.
Of course. Yeah, you're there.
Yeah, bad penny.
Yeah.
So she was like, well, that's very strange.
Very strange.
So she came back into the ballroom to speak to me and be like, this is weird. And we heard a tremendous loud noise. It was sounding like someone had fallen down our staircase. You're familiar with our staircase.
Right.
And I ran in from one direction to the office, the front area where you come for admission.
Right.
She went in another direction. And we saw that our lockbox had been ripped open, and there were some things remaining, but the vast majority of the money and the checks were gone. So we were joined by a man named Chris Wright, who is a political activist. He has his own podcast as well. And we took to the street. We went looking in all the different directions. I have to tell you that our club has been harassed by Antifa.
I'm sure. Yes.
Multiple occasions.
Well, because they think you're the other club.
Well, no. I think they think we're just a visible representation of the GOP. We're a physical space. We do not hide where we're located.
Right.
We're out and proud.
Right.
Back to pride.
Pride.
And everyone knows where we are. We were the former home of the New York GOP. We're a bit famous that way. And so, Antifa harasses us all the time. They like to come. They like to have their Obamacare rally. Whatever. We love them. Come. Just don't spray paint our building.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you that night, because the police had been handcuffed so many times from going after and finding Antifa and the people who had gone it, in my belief, by Mr. de Blasio, who did not make it a priority, we took to that street and we were going to get our man.
Well, and these days in New York City, you have to take the law in your own hands.
Pretty much.
That's
pretty much.
I mean, that's what it is.
So we took after him. We saw he had went up Lexington Avenue straight up towards 86th Street. We ran after him. We stopped in front of a Taco Bell. He denied knowing what we were talking about. And then it turned into basically he knew we were not letting him go.
So it was like a citizen's arrest.
It was almost a citizen's arrest. In fact, the 9/11 operator that day that I was speaking to, if you listen to the audio, I actually asked how you do one of those. How do you do it? How do we make this kosher?
Yeah.
And we stopped him. To make a long story short, he got away. He tried to bargain. He tried to give us money.
Money he stole.
Some of it, though, not all of it.
Oh, interesting.
And then give us the money and then let him go, which we didn't. He ran around us. And the police stopped him on 86th in front of the Chase Bank.
Nice.
That's when actually he became much more aggressive. It was really interesting. He wasn't aggressive with us, but he did. He pulled a knife on the cops.
Oh, wow.
When they had him on the street. And he tried to stab one. Thank God he did not.
Thank God.
I thank God for the police who were able to apprehend him, bring him to justice.
Sure.
They pulled the money out. And they were like, well, how do we prove it's yours? And I said to him, officer, you have checks in your hands? I seriously doubt this man's name is Metropolitan Republican Club. And that is when he turned it over and was like, we got him.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I have to tell you, he'd been responsible. And they thought that night, they told us that night that we believe he's responsible for many other robberies.
I'm sure.
And he was. I testified to the grand jury, and I was apparently one of several days of the grand jury. And then later on, the PAPD contacted me for footage because they have
one.
Yes. So he is an interesting fellow, and hopefully he's going away.
When you have guys like Alvin Bragg, who's the DA in Manhattan, they just let these guys go for multiple robberies. I believe there was a New York Post article, or on the front page, they called him the Man of Steel. He had 45 theft arrests, and he finally got arrested again, and they finally put him in Rikers Island because enough is enough. Like, come on.
Yeah, no, there's this whole idea now within the DA's office that you just basically let them go and everything's gonna be okay.
It's national though. You see what's going on in LA, right?
Yes,
George Gascon,
and I think San Francisco is gonna have a recall.
Both of them.
Okay,
they're trying to get signatures. I think they're in LA. I think they're closer to getting rid of George. Not getting rid of him, getting a recall. But I'm pretty sure he'll get voted out because, as you see what he did with that kid who claimed he was transgender, which obviously he's not.
Right.
He's a man. Like they put him in a juvenile jail, and then he was on being recorded and then admitted to a murder, and now he's going to jail for life. So he was about to get out, and then he admitted to a murder.
And imagine if he hadn't.
Can you imagine? And he was on the jail telephone bragging about how he's going to get out, how George Gascon. Like,
basically,
I know people are like have opinions about Tucker Carlson, but he came out with that. I think it was the suicide of Los Angeles or something. It just came out on Tucker Carlson Originals.
Okay,
people need to watch that because he has like some
Tucker's
good.
Great.
Yeah, he has some good audio from the jailhouses from all these gangbangers like MS-13 guys.
Yeah.
Oh, we got the Gascon special. Literally, like these guys because they dropped all the gang affiliations and the gun affiliations. So these guys like they shoot somebody, even they're in a gang. They drop 3-strike law, all that stuff. They get out in 2 years for shooting somebody. But that's what's going on here, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you had the Summer of Love, right, where basically BLM could collect all that money and terrorize people.
Right, and buy mansions.
Yes. Because that's what they're owed.
It's not their fault you gave them white guilt money.
Well, yes, and so now they're
That's
going
what
to
she
spend
said.
it
That's
anyway.
what she said.
She's going to spend
not
it
my words.
No,
my words.
I know.
White guilt money.
Well, but she's honest.
Hey, good for her. I like honesty.
Right. No, it was just another shakedown in another version.
I mean, I actually people only I don't know if people on Instagram knows. I actually had a confrontation with Hawk Newsome.
Oh, did you?
I did, yes.
Oh, wow.
So basically, a couple months ago, this 12-year-old boy, Cade Lewin, he was just hanging out in East Flatbush in his car eating, and a drive-by shooter just came and lit up the car and murdered him.
Wow.
So me and Lauren Conlon decided to make a scholarship in his name for $5,000, which is whatever. It's not much, but it's something, whatever. So I literally extended my hand like a gentleman to Hawk Newsome. I asked him for help. Would you match it? You want to help me? The guy was an asshole. Just didn't want to help me. Told me that I'm not about black. I don't care about black people, and I'm just another white person. Who is trying to exploit black, what did he say? Exploit black pain. I don't know what that means, but okay.
It sounds like he has a script and he's sticking to it.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what he does.
Do not deviate publicly, but privately, a lot of them will go off the script.
Right. So I made a video on my Instagram and I tagged him in it, and he got even more pissed off about that. Yeah, he probably wants to kill me, to be honest with you.
Well,
So
now, well, knock on wood, he does not.
Well, if anybody knows if I get whacked, it's probably going to be Hawk Newsome.
I heard there's like 100 people, but yes, he could be one of them.
There might be some people, around, but he's probably the number one
for that.
Yeah, he's the number one guy, probably. Yeah, he's very upset with me that I called him out and asked him to match it. So I actually,
how unfortunate though.
But I actually read another article in Chicago. This guy, he lives on the roof in Chicago. He's like homeless or something.
Okay.
And he asked Black Lives Matter for help, and they literally told him to go fuck himself, pretty much.
Well, they have to pay for their own room and board, don't they?
Right, the mansions.
Right. In Los Angeles.
Right. Yeah. Oh, Hollywood, wherever they live in. Nice.
I'm sure Bel Air as well.
That's a great thing.
Don't go small.
No, come on, man. You gotta get the best of the best.
But it is very sad because it shows that, well, what we knew, it was all bullshit. Yeah. But when you have the opportunity to help these people out,
right,
and who desperately need help,
right,
who have fallen through the cracks,
correct,
and you have the chance to bring them back within your community, it's not happening, and that's really unfortunate.
Hawk Newsome actually didn't even go to Kay Lewin's funeral. Neither did Mayor Adams either, nonetheless.
But he was usually pretty busy with Cara Delevingne, I think, at One Vanderbilt dancing.
Yes. Mayor Adams is the nightlife mayor. So,
it's really interesting because you brought up Fox and Friends earlier, and one of the things from my appearance, and I thought it was a very bland criticism of the mayor. That's what I got all the emails about, saying, thank God someone finally said something.
I mean, listen, I can't blame him for the crime because he inherited that from de Blasio. I know a lot of people are upset about the crime, but I mean, it's been like this since de Blasio for 8 years. So he kind of inherited it. So he needs to.
It does strangely seem to have intensified, especially with the subways and the stabbings.
Well, he needs to do something.
Yeah,
he needs to do something and. But give the guy a chance. He just got elected in November, January, even technically. He just literally got in office. So I would say give him a year.
Okay.
1 year. If he can't get things under control, then we can start blaming him for crime and
I'm all for giving people chances. Because
de Blasio was in office for 8 years.
Well, I actually like to say what Rudy created and Mike Bloomberg maintained.
Right. De Blasio ruined it.
In 8 years.
Ruined it. So you want to laugh? I was at an event for the Friars Club with Rudy Giuliani last Thursday. Not this Thursday, past 2 Thursdays ago. And guess who was sitting at the other table?
Was it Mayor Adams?
Yes, and then another person, former Mayor de Blasio.
Oh, together?
No, they were at separate tables.
Okay.
And
wow.
Yeah.
At the Friars Club?
It wasn't at the Friars Club. It was at Ziegfeld Ballroom. It was an event to honor Tracy Morgan.
Okay.
They have an event every year. Well, 2019 was the last one because of COVID, obviously.
Right. Like a gala, yeah.
So, Mayor Giuliani was with me, and he was
3 mayors. Wow.
Yeah, 3 mayors. He was very upset. Bill de Blasio was there. He didn't understand why this man was at this event, and obviously he was only there to get money and to get people to give him money.
Someone probably gave him a ticket.
People were heckling him, calling him all kinds of names. I just can't believe. I don't even know who invited him, honestly. Mayor Adams, I understand, because him and Tracy Morgan are boys and whatever. That's fine. He wasn't doing anything. He literally just came to give a proclamation to Tracy Morgan from the city and say, you did so much for the city, you brought such, comedy, whatever. Right. And then he left.
Right.
But de Blasio stayed.
Well, there were freebies to have.
Of course. He's a grifter.
Right.
There was a whole Fox News table.
Oh.
Judge Janine was there.
Very
I have
nice.
a picture with her.
Love Judge.
Gerardo. Bill Hammer.
Great.
Who might be secretly gay. Oh. That's what I heard. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I
Maybe
have no idea.
This is what I heard from people. Yeah. And then they had a whole Fox News table, and pretty much that was that table. And then there was the Bill de Blasio table, and then Mayor Adams was at Arthur Aidella's table, who was the dean of Friars Club.
Oh, interesting.
Yes,
because he's very conservative.
Oh,
Arthur Aidella. Isn't he?
He's actually a Democrat.
No, I know he is, but I thought he was more
he's like a moderate.
Yeah, I thought he was
moderate.
much more to the, especially compared to the progressive.
So he actually told a story. Actually, this was a very interesting story. He was working a case when he was a young lawyer. This lady, she was abused her whole life. She got molested by her uncle or something and was raped and whatever. Wow. So when she became grown, she saw the same thing happening to her niece or something like that, and she did a whole plan to hold her uncle hostage and she cut off his dick.
Holy crap.
Yeah, we could say this on this show. Don't worry. She cut off his dick. He didn't die from that. She actually put a ball gag in his mouth and he suffocated. She strategically planned for him not to die. She just wanted him to
torture
castrate
him, basically.
Correct. So he can't do anything anymore. So when Arthur got that case, the only person that called him for help, that if he needed help, was Mayor Adams. And I think this was like 20 years. Whenever Mayor Adams was like a senator, that's how him and Artie became good friends. And Artie actually told this story. And,
at the Friars Club?
At the thing with Tracy Morgan. Yeah. And I thought that was actually like pretty cool, Mayor Adams, whatever. Like I don't have anything against Mayor Adams right now. I mean, like he goes out, he whatever. Like I said, you can't blame the guy for things that are going on because he inherited these problems. He inherited subway crime. I mean, it wasn't as bad, but...
No, the only thing I'd say to him is however bad you think it is, it's worse.
Correct.
So double your effort.
And also, he told BLM that you're not going to be riding anymore, which is very impressive, which pissed off Hawk Newsome very much. He put the anti-crime unit back.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
No, it's
after all, the guy was a cop for 20 years.
100%.
So he needs to be pro-police. He cannot be anti-police.
No, and the only way you're going to restore law and order in the city is to support the police.
Absolutely.
People have to get that through their heads.
It's and it's funny you say that because corrections is having a problem right now. They're being federally monitored, and because this is why Rikers is out of control.
Well, they're going to take it apart, right? No, you don't.
That's up in the air right now. So Rikers is out of control because the corrections officers are being federally watched for something that's called use of force, quote unquote. So a use of force is basically if you touch someone on the shoulder, an inmate, they can write you up and report you, right? So back in the old days, you can like slam them on the floor. You can, you can't do crazy stuff, right? Like if you pepper spray somebody,
is that now?
That's a use of force now, and you can be suspended. So. This is why you see all these stories about Rikers Island, how it's out of control, because the corrections officers are literally handcuffed because of the federal government. It has nothing to do with the city government.
Right.
So now they're in court fighting should we have the federal government take over Rikers or should the city still, Well,
what would you do?
So what I would do is they have a federal monitor right now, not like an actual takeover. He needs to actually see what is a use of force. If you pepper spray somebody, you're not going to kill them.
Right.
So I wouldn't consider that a use of force.
Okay.
If an inmate's being unruly and you need to throw them to the ground, they're not going to die. Okay. But if you're cracking guys with a nightstick
over their head,
and you punch them in the face, I mean, listen. They're inmates after all, but they're still human beings.
Right.
Like some of them are in there for bullshit things, like they stole over $1,000, which is grand larceny. So they stole money, which is like whatever. I mean, but the rapists and the animals, they don't deserve those. Whatever. That's another story. But like some of these guys, like I said, they're in there for bullshit. Like little drug possessions, whatever.
Right.
So
small stuff.
Yeah. So there's still like human beings in there who made mistakes, but yeah, they need to really justify what a actual quote-unquote use of force is. Mm-hmm. And once they do that, then I feel like also Rikers has another problem. Their corrections officers have something called a limited sick, which is built into their union contract.
Okay.
Basically, they can call out as much as they want as long as they have documentation.
Right, which creates, I'm sure, it's undermanned.
A staffing problem. Correct.
And then
that's why Rikers is out of control.
A greater chance for these people to rise up and cause issues.
Correct.
So it's not just Rikers is both, from my understanding, what you're saying, it's basically the rapist and then the Anna Delveys of the world, right?
So basically, if people don't understand, Rikers actually has 9 jails.
Right.
So you're only supposed to be there for 2 years until you either do your sentence, your minimum sentence, or you go upstate. But all these guys keep doing appeals. Some of them are there for 5-6 years.
Wow.
So when I was EMS, this guy ran over this woman, Yadi Arroyo. He literally stole her ambulance and ran her over multiple times. This. Right. He literally he didn't get sentenced. They finally, since 2017, I believe, they finally said he wasn't fit for trial after 5 years.
Wow.
He's been in Rikers for 5 years. And finally, he's going to a mental hospital.
I was about to say, I would think that probably did something to his mental health as well.
So this is what happens to Rikers. They're so backed up that some guys stay there for 5 years, 6 years, but they're really only supposed to be there for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the city, and I actually talked to somebody, and Rikers actually started falling when Bloomberg was in office. He really didn't pay attention to it. It wasn't De Blasio. You can't. I can't believe it. Like that's one thing he did. I mean, De Blasio didn't do anything to make it better.
Right.
But
probably ignored the problem.
Of course he did. He never went there. He hardly went there. Whatever. But Bloomberg actually started to ignore Rikers, and that's when it really went downhill.
Wow.
Because when Bernie Kerik was the commissioner, before he got jammed up with that whole doing renovations, whatever the fuck he did.
The federal stuff.
Yeah. That Rikers was really, that people used to monitor their jails. I'm not monitor. Model their jails off of Rikers Island, like that system.
Wow.
But now, forget it. You don't want to even be involved.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
everything they say now about it is, not positive.
No, it's not. It's not. People die once a week there. It's like a joke. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So like this NYPD and the correctional officers, like they both have the same problem. They're both handcuffed. That's basically the point I was trying to make. They're both handcuffed in the jails and on the streets. So that's why crime is out of control in the city, and a lot of people don't understand that.
And yeah, absolutely. And to my point, that's something that people have to begin to understand.
Yeah.
And our elected officials will hopefully one day get behind them.
That's what pisses me off about all these activists that show up at Rikers once a week and protest, like let them out. Like no. No. They don't understand the kind of people that are in there. Like there's people in there who try to rape staff, try to sexually assault them, try to kill them. A correctional officer was stabbed with a piece of a broomstick the other day in the ear. These are the kinds of people that these leftists want to let out in the streets.
Right. And we already have a problem with people in the streets who are causing problems and stabbing in the subways. Right. Let's not add to it.
I mean, we gave $1 billion to Mayor de Blasio's wife to fix the mental health problem.
Well, she did a great job.
Oh, she did an amazing job.
Yeah.
So good.
And it's so great that then she declines to run for office because, that was the plan.
Well, she wanted to be borough president,
right?
But she knew she would be investigated and all these questions would come.
Right.
The greatest thing, I remember a reporter asked de Blasio, I remember, why is your wife in charge of whatever the name was? Because they rebranded 3 times.
Right.
I think it was Thrive at the time.
Thrive New York.
Oh,
right.
you're just asking that question because she's a person of color. What?
Deflect.
Why do you always have to go back to race? It has nothing to do with race.
Deflect.
Mayor de Blasio is as incompetent as they come, and he's a white as they come. He's not Italian. He's a German. His name is Warren Wilhelm. You're incompetent, so that's why we're asking you questions. If your wife isn't qualified to do that job, that's why we're asking questions. It has nothing to do with being black, purple, green, whatever color you are. If you're just not the person for the job, like Kamala Harris.
Ugh. He did not.
Joe Biden, incompetent.
Vegetable.
He's the whitest person ever on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so why isn't anybody saying, "Oh, you're just asking that because he's white"? Like, it's like, come on, dude.
No, Joe Biden he's a head of lettuce. But
it's like, come on, man.
When specifically in those times, especially with de Blasio, if you don't have an acceptable answer and you know that it's not going to be bought,
back to race,
back to some sort of identity.
Even Mayor Adams, actually, that's one thing that pissed me off about him. He was cool until he said, "Oh, I think the press is racist against me because I'm like, what, dude?
That
what?
I
you
do
remember that? Right?
I do remember. I felt like he was mean. Was he backed into a corner?
I don't understand.
It was very silly and stupid.
That kind of pissed me off. Like, dude, you were doing good, and then like you said that, like nobody cares.
And didn't he imply that the press should become more representative?
I don't understand what he means by that.
I don't understand either, especially since they're liberal.
Yeah, like that's one thing about Republicans. Like some of them are afraid to talk about like these race wars that these liberals create. Like there's no race wars, and they even do it in the mainstream. Like even in Hollywood. If anybody saw, I just had this conversation on my other podcast, Many Saints of Newark. Did you ever see that movie? The Sopranos thing.
That's the precursor.
Right, the prequel.
Yeah.
So they created some kind of crazy narrative in that movie that the Italians and the black people in Newark were like at war with each other in the 1960s. That's like, come on, dude. That's never true. That was never true. Like, so like even in Hollywood, they create like these crazy narratives and just fuel the fire of like race wars in the United States.
Well, the thing now seems to be Hollywood likes to revisit things that were successful,
right,
and then ruin them.
Correct.
Except for, I will say, Top Gun.
I heard Top Gun was good. I did not see it yet, but I heard it was good. I heard it was very pro-American. And the liberal outlets are very upset about this.
There's no woke in it.
Yes, this is what I heard. I heard.
I was very
I heard
happy.
The Guardian was very upset about it.
I have no doubt, but the Daily Mail, I'm sure, loved it.
Oh, well, of course. Yes. Yeah, so like I'm kind of sick and tired of like listen, I was raised, if you're an asshole, you're an asshole.
Right.
I don't care what color you are.
Right.
I treat the CEO the same as the janitor. That's how I do it. And then like, but once you cross me,
Right. No, it's. I think it's because in the liberal ideology, they are so fake with each other because they're afraid to be really with each other, so they have to come up with these phony phrases.
AOC, for example, she's Native American all of a sudden.
Oh, is she?
I just posted 4 different races and religions today on my Instagram. First, she was Sephardic Jew.
Okay.
Native American.
Okay.
African.
Right.
And what was the 4th one? I forgot what it was.
I can't wait till she wakes her way.
I think it was just regular Jewish.
Is she a gay man yet?
She's not a gay man yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Not yet. She's not a gay man yet. No. So why isn't anybody questioning her? I don't understand. Why is anybody how dare you?
Well, one, I think it's sort of like too many people who are on her side are afraid to because you don't
the squad.
But the Democrats in general, they maintain such unity. Mm-hmm. They circle the wagons. Mm-hmm. It's so difficult to get them off their
tight circles.
Right. They don't want to go from their message. Mm-hmm. They defend their own way better than the GOP does. Mm-hmm. But I will say, didn't Nancy Pelosi have that famous phrase where she was talking about her, and she said basically something like, "A glass of water with a D after its name would have gotten elected in that office."
True.
And I have a feeling that was
Nancy Pelosi's not a fan of AOC.
No, I think AOC got whacked by San Fran Nan at that point.
Elizabeth Warren already tried the Native American thing, and she got caught. So
she didn't just get caught. She then went up against a man who was willing to really force the issue and shut her down.
I know.
So let that be a lesson to the GOP.
Yeah, come on, man. Like someone's got it. Whoever runs against AOC next needs to do something. She's a Sephardic Jew. She's Native American. She's African American. Like, come on, bro. She claims because she's Puerto Rican that all this stuff is mixed into Puerto Rican, which it may be. It may be.
Well, and beyond all of that, doesn't she live in, I think, the Navy Yards area of Washington,
Of course,
DC?
she lives in the best. I've been there.
Above a Whole Foods?
Yes.
And
she drives a Tesla but she hates Elon Musk.
And she wears Theory, I believe.
Theory's very expensive.
Right.
I have a few Theory T-shirts. They're like $80 each.
I think it's gorgeous. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Very well done.
Yes.
None of this is really lining up with her socialist beliefs.
All these liberals hate Elon Musk.
Right.
They hate him, but they all drive Teslas.
Right.
So get rid of your Tesla.
No.
No.
The car is silent. I'm not getting rid of it.
Climate change. Climate change. But we take our private jets. John Kerry, the biggest joke of the Democrats.
Yes, our former Secretary of State.
Who is now the climate change czar.
Is he, though? Where is he?
Or whatever he is.
I think he's probably on Martha's
Vineyard. What
Vineyard.
about Pete Buttigieg?
What about Pete?
Mayor Pete. What does he know about transportation?
Nothing. He was the mayor of a poorly run small town.
Which had a lot of traffic fatalities.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And he's elevated to the national stage.
Right.
But it didn't really go too well for him. But they still felt the need to put him in the cabinet.
Right. Well, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
As a gay man, and he's a gay man.
Yeah.
If you met a significant other and had a baby, would you take 12 weeks maternity leave?
I can't answer that because I'm not in his situation. That's the honest answer.
Right.
But
I always wanted to ask that question.
I would say,
especially when the country is in a crisis with the supply chain.
I was just about to say,
that's what I was going to say.
Being in government's a little different.
Right. If you're in government. No, that's what I mean. Like if you were in his position, the Secretary of Transportation.
No, my answer would be no. Because honestly, he is in a position to afford help.
2 weeks.
Yeah, no, you want to help out, right? You want to help out, change some diapers.
Yeah, of course.
You're in a position where you've been elevated to the national stage, and I think that is. I mean, obviously you have a child. These are both priorities, but you are in a position where you can afford the help to make sure that your partner is helped and supported, perhaps. Maybe,
whatever.
If he's staying home, then you have to make sure he's okay. You want to take care of your child, right? But this country's going down the crapper real fast.
Got that right.
We need all hands on deck. And I think he's capable of doing both.
Why didn't you join the prominent log cabin of the Republican, which is, for you who don't know, the log cabin is the gay party of the GOP.
Right. Basically, it's the identity group for gay people.
Why didn't you join that?
I've never been one for identity politics. Like I said to you earlier, I went out and took to the streets. That was my thing. I found a club that was interested in doing grassroots. I like to work with the grassroots. I'm not involved with the GOP for anything other than the political aspects.
Right. But you host them at the Met Club sometimes?
We have, yeah. The club has a large ballroom you've been in.
Right.
And when people, especially GOP groups, need us, we're
always
there
yes.
for them.
Always yes.
We're always there for them.
You never reject anybody that's,
No, but maybe in the future.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't have Holocaust deniers or white supremacists at the Met Club.
No, we do our best to avoid those.
Of course. You vet people.
Right. And, I think it's best that the GOP, in my opinion, functions best when it's an open tent.
Yes.
And I think that when you can bring in as many people, it goes back to almost to the Koch thing that I was telling you before. 8 of those 12 things, we're not going to agree with everything. Some people are going to be more socially liberal. Some people are more going to be conservative. We're at our best. We function best when we have Trump or Reagan inviting everyone in. I will tell you, look, Trump was the first to wave that rainbow flag. He knew that there was talent that was being left out, and he wanted to bring it in. He put Grinnell temporarily, at least, into the cabinet, I should say. He elevated him to the highest position for any gay man to have as an ambassador, and that was to Germany, and then brought him back to be a temporary part of the secretary. I think it was for the DNI.
People don't understand that, like everyone that talks about Trump, everyone thinks he's anti-gay and anti-trans and all this.
But how did that come about? He grows up as the Queen's boy, right?
Right.
Beloved in New York City by all the Democrats who wanted to go to his parties.
He was a Democrat.
Hillary went to his wedding, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden he runs for president. Before he becomes president, he runs for president and he's Satan.
As a Republican.
And he's Satan.
Right. Trump was a Democrat before he was all about, and then he,
Wasn't he even given an award? I don't know if this is correct, but by Al Sharpton?
I'm sure it was.
Then all of a sudden he's the devil?
This is the problem I have with these Democrats. Al Sharpton and all these people have no problem taking money from Trump before he was president. All of a sudden, they took all his money, his donations, this and that. It was all good, and then he decided to run for president. Now he's literally, like you said, Lucifer. So it just doesn't make sense.
And then they conspire against him to get him off of social media and try to exile him to Florida.
Putin still has a Twitter.
Isn't that interesting?
He's raping
Iranians.
The Shah of Iran.
The Ayatollah.
Ayatollah, whatever. Whatever his name is.
These people get to go on Twitter.
Right. Death to America, they scream.
Death to America.
Israel.
And you spell it with a K. If you spell America with a K, apparently it's okay to say death to it.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Putin, let's go back. He has an abysmal human rights background.
Of course.
Gay people, whomever. I'm sure Gary Kasparov could come on and talk to you about this.
Right.
But unfortunately, they get to go on Twitter and they get to say whatever they want. But apparently, Elon's finding out that they get to say it to a lot of bots.
Yes, that's why he doesn't want to buy it. Because Twitter's a lot of bots. He realized that.
He's a smart man.
Yeah, so I don't think he's going to deal with Twitter. I mean,
well, he's already exposed it. He's done what he had.
Right. I think that's really what his main goal was. I don't think he ever wanted to buy it. I think he wanted to see what was going on. And the new CEO of Twitter, really publicly said he doesn't believe in free speech. Because what people don't understand is he said that. He literally said this. It's Twitter is a private platform.
Right.
It's not public. So they can censor whatever. They could tell Trump.
Right.
Like he's not allowed
they can kick him off. They did.
But you can't kick President Trump off and have Putin and the Ayatollah.
Which they did.
And, correct. I mean, like Putin sending his Russian soldiers to rape boys and little girls and
in Ukraine.
In Ukraine.
And then, what was interesting, though, I think there were a couple of Western leaders who did see the slippery slope because at that time you did see Angela Merkel come out in Germany and say this is not the right thing.
No, yes.
And she was no fan of President Trump.
No, I know. But
she said this is a bad thing because
she's not a fan of Justin Trudeau either.
No, well, I don't even think the Canadian people are at this point.
No,
his government is quite wobbly.
That's Fidel Castro's love child.
Yes, that's what they say.
They literally look alike.
Yeah.
I looked it. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
I know when they put those specific photos together, it's very funny. Yeah.
I mean, his mom even thought his dad was gay. She said it publicly.
Pierre.
Yeah, Pierre. She literally said that. She's like, I don't it's anyway. But
and she was actually very famous, I think, in the 80s as sort of like this Bianca Jagger style person.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Studio 54 and all that.
I mean, Justin Trudeau is not a bad looking guy. He's
very handsome.
Pretty looking guy.
Handsome,
but he's like a communist.
Unfortunately, he is someone who dresses up things in pretty words, and it's authoritarianism.
Correct, obviously. Yeah, he's trying to take away everybody's guns.
Right, because of what happened in the United States.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Why these people don't make sense?
I think it was Tucker who actually said the people who are most aggrieved and interested in taking away your guns are the people who are authoritarian.
Right.
Because they know that they have something to fear eventually.
But they'll still be armed.
Oh, yeah.
Their bodyguards will still be armed.
100%.
Joe Biden.
Yeah.
All of them. All senators, congresswomen, men. They'll all be armed. But
you say
people,
keep your 100 feet and we're all good.
Us people, us average Joes and average whatever the ladies call themselves, can't have Janes can't have guns.
No.
Which is the Second Amendment.
Well, I just learned that our rights are not absolute.
Oh, did you know?
No, I didn't know that. Joe Biden apparently in his television, he said that
that's right. I heard that. Yes,
Second Amendment is not absolute.
Oh, really? It's not?
Which I assume means that the other rights aren't either. So that's interesting.
Don't we have a Bill of Rights?
Don't we have a constitution that's supposed to be absolute? That's what I learned growing up.
Oh, no, but the liberals make the argument that George Washington didn't need an AR-15 back in 1776. But you know what? If he had one, he would have beat the Redcoats way quicker.
Yes.
That's for sure. So I think he did need an AR-15.
I wonder
back
if there
in
was
1776.
someone in the founding fathers who was like, George Washington doesn't need a cannon.
No,
he doesn't need that cannon.
He doesn't need that. He doesn't need that cannon. Only the British are only trying to kill us and just pillage us. Yeah. No, he doesn't need any.
If he just do what the king said.
Right. This country was founded on fighting and with guns. Like I'm not saying like
liberty.
Listen, there needs to be better checks. That's absolute. But you can't just be like Second Amendment doesn't exist.
I don't like it, so now it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. I mean,
there's a recourse within that Constitution if you want to take something away or revisit it or change it.
Right.
Going on national television to probably one of the smallest audiences ever, because I'm sure they don't even say how many people are watching anymore.
Nobody's watching.
So it's probably like 5 people,
literally,
in San Francisco.
Who do you think gets more views, Joe Biden or, let's say, Brian Stelter from CNN?
Oh, wow.
The eunuch. I love when Tucker calls him that. So amazing.
But is Joe Biden on CNN at
no,
that
just
point?
Like if Joe Biden has like a press conference.
I would say he's probably still getting a few more.
Think he's getting a few more views than Brian Stelter?
Yeah, because there's probably still people watching in the White House.
Yes,
that are watching CNN.
You're right. Yeah, that's just it's just very crazy. But listen, Ian, we're running out of time. So tell us about these events. Tell us social media for the Met Club. Your social media. What do we got?
Well, Mike, like I said, this Thursday we're showing 2,000 Mules. We invite everyone to come. We'd love to have you. It's a great documentary. It's about an hour. I think an hour and a half, so it's not too long. And then on the 15th, like I said, we have our gubernatorial debate. Well, it's actually, I'll say forum. And people can come learn the important things. You know, you watch these debates on television, you get to hear what the liberals who are running those debates want you to hear.
Correct.
Those moderators are telling you not what conservatives want to hear.
This is actually a real Republican
Exactly.
debate.
And we're going to have things that are important to Republicans and also
kitchen table stuff.
Literally the running of our state.
Correct.
Are these people going to all pledge that those people who were gotten rid of by the city of New York because they did not take the vaccine are going to get their jobs back under them?
Right.
We want to hear that. You're not going to probably hear that at the debates.
Absolutely not.
And then finally, like I said, Brandon Straka returns to the Met Club, and we're really excited to have him back. He's great. Walk Away is all about getting Democrats who are disaffected to come over to the GOP. And like I said, this is how we build our party, and we make sure that 2022 is great for us, and 2024 is even better.
Absolutely.
So please follow us on Met Club NYC on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook, Met Club NYC.
Great.
Just keep putting that in, and you'll find us on all social medias.
Last question. Who do you want to run for president in 2024?
I'm still with President Trump.
Excellent. Well, Ian, thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely have you on again.
Thank you, Mike. It's been an honor.
Thank you.